Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live.
In order to ensure free and fair...
Coming up in the next 30 minutes. U.S. Secretary of State hopes Hamas will accept Israel's extraordinarily generous Gaza truce and hostage release offer. Biden asks leaders from Qatar and Egypt to exert all efforts to secure the release of hostages in separate phone calls. Hamas to return with a written response. Three law enforcement officers fatally shot and 5 others wounded while serving a warrant in Charlotte in North Carolina. At least one suspected attacker found dead after a 3-hour standoff. Authorities say 2 shooters involved in the attack. Seven countries set global climate precedent, commits to coal phase out by 2035 with shutting down their coal-fired power plants in the first half of the 2030s. Ministers will issue a final communique with the details on Tuesday. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Hamas to accept a ceasefire proposal on his visit to the Middle East. The proposal includes a 40-day truce in return for the release of hostages and the prospect of displaced families being allowed back to northern Gaza. Blinken traveled to Saudi Arabia to meet with U.S. allies before heading to Jordan and Israel. Nick Harper gets us the details from Washington.
Topping the agenda for Antony Blinken has been trying to secure a ceasefire deal and trying to secure the release of the remaining hostages held by Hamas. The Secretary of State met with multiple officials in Saudi's capital Riyadh on Monday, including with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and he met foreign ministers from 5 other Arab countries. Blinken described the updated ceasefire proposal as extraordinarily generous and urged Hamas to accept the deal.
Hamas has before it a proposal that is extraordinarily generous on the part of Israel. And in this moment, the only thing standing between the people of Gaza and a ceasefire is Hamas. They have to decide, and they have to decide quickly. So we're looking to that, and I'm hopeful that they will make the right decision.
Israel has scaled back the number of hostages it's asking Hamas to free in the first phase of this potential truce. Reports suggest it's reducing its demand from 40 hostages to 33 and requesting that women, older people and those who are sick are prioritised. Blinken also discussed increasing the delivery of humanitarian assistance to Palestinians in Gaza, and he warned Israel not to go ahead with its planned ground offensive on Rafah in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Washington worries that Israel still intends to press ahead with an assault in an area where hundreds of thousands of Palestinian civilians, most of them displaced because of fighting in other parts of Gaza, are currently sheltering. Blinken continues his diplomatic tour, visiting Jordan and Israel on Tuesday. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden has urged leaders from Qatar and Egypt to exert all efforts to secure the release of hostages held by Hamas. Biden held a separate phone call with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. He also discussed the dangers of a military escalation in Rafah. Besides, the two presidents also stressed on the necessity of working to prevent expansion of the conflict and reaffirmed the importance of the two-state solution as the means to achieve security, peace and stability in the region. The U.S. military has started building a large floating pier off Gaza's coast to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid. Ships will deliver aid from Cyprus to the pier, where it will be loaded onto trucks to transfer across Gaza. The pier will be attached to the shore by a temporary causeway, which the trucks will use. U.S. officials say the pier will be operational by early May. Once operational, up to 150 trucks of aid could be delivered in a day with 2 million meals, enough to feed almost all of the territory's 2.3 million population. In a recent firing incident in the U.S., 3 law enforcement officers were killed and another 4 were wounded in Charlotte, North Carolina. The incident occurred when the officers who were killed were attempting to serve a warrant for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. They arrived at a residence where the suspect was located and he began firing on the officers. In return firing, 1 suspect has been killed and 2 others were taken into custody. U.S. President Joe Biden was briefed on the incident and has spoken with North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. Haiti's Transition Council will vote for the country's next president on Tuesday as part of the efforts to bring the Caribbean country under control amid rampant gang violence. The Transition Council took power in a ceremony on Thursday, formalizing the resignation of former Prime Minister Ariel Henry. The transitional government's mandate runs until February 2026, by when there are slated to be elections and cannot be renewed. The council's installation is seen as a key step towards the deployment of a multinational security mission Henry requested in 2022 and the United Nations approved more than 6 months ago. Mexico held its second presidential debate on Sunday night, April 28th, with just a little more than a month from the June election. The focus was on climate change. Mexico's main opposition presidential candidate, Xochitl Galvez, called her rival frontrunner Claudia Sheinbaum the candidate of lies during the pre-election debate. The attack by Galvez comes as the latest opinion polls show that she is struggling to gain momentum with 5 weeks to go before the June 2nd election. Sheinbaum, for her part, vowed to improve water recycling in Mexico, which has been facing drought and widespread water shortages. She frequently made reference to the achievements of the current government of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Panama's presidential hopefuls made a last dash for votes on Sunday as campaigning closed ahead of the vote on 5th of May. In Panama City, frontrunner Jose Raul Mulino rallied supporters. Mulino replaced former President Ricardo Martinelli after he was banned from running due to a prison conviction last year on money laundering charges. In La Correra, Romulo Rao, who is second placed in the polls, called on voters to turn out and get him past the finish line. Also in Panama City, Martin Torrijos campaigned on an anti-corruption ticket. The former president has placed third in most opinion polls. With 8 candidates set to appear on the ballot, pundits are predicting a tight race. Georgia faces more protests this week as lawmakers resume debate on a foreign agents law, which was introduced to Parliament earlier this month. Thousands of people protested against the bill for days when it passed its first hurdle in Parliament in mid-April. Since then, students have been protesting on a nightly basis, facing off against the riot police. The EU has repeatedly said that the bill is a threat. Britain and the United States have also opposed the bill, while Hungary and Russia have defended it. The bill would force organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as foreign agents. A parliamentary committee approved the bill's second reading on Monday in a tense hearing from which all opposition members were expelled. Parliament is expected to approve the second of the 3 readings on Tuesday amid opposition protests. Argentina's oil, seed and maritime worker unions kicked off a strike on Monday to protest a labor reform bill backed by radical libertarian President Javier Milei. Argentina is one of the world's main exporters of processed soybeans, and revenue from commodity exports are a major source of foreign currency needed to pay down debt and finance imports for the cash-strapped government amid a prolonged economic slide. The strike started just after lawmakers in Argentina's lower house of Congress began the debate on 2 sweeping economic reform bills proposed by Milei that called for privatization and tighter fiscal policy, as well as taxes on high salaries and a labor reform. The Philippines and the U.S. troops are participating in an amphibious assault drill as part of their annual 2-week joint military exercises. The drills run until May 10th amid high tensions between Beijing and Manila, who both have claims to the maritime territory in the South China Sea. As Laura Westbrook gets us more from Hong Kong.
The Balikatan, or shoulder-to-shoulder military exercises, take place every year, and they involve some 16,000 mostly American and Filipino troops. But for the first time, the Philippine Coast Guard will take part, as well as the French Navy, and they will take place some 12 nautical miles outside of the Philippines' territorial waters. They are also simulating retaking enemy-occupied islands facing Taiwan and the South China Sea. And this is significant because we have seen increased clashes between the Philippine Coast Guard and Chinese vessels when the Philippines has gone on these resupply missions. Now, the U.S. Secretary of State recently visited China last week, and he said that freedom of navigation in the South China Sea was incredibly vital. This is an incredibly strategic area of the region. It sees trillions of trade pass through every year. The response from China has been that the Philippines bringing in other countries to flex its muscles in the South China Sea will only undermine regional stability. Laura Westbrook in Hong Kong, reporting for DD India.
The group of 7 energy ministers on Monday pledged to close their coal plants in the first half of the 2030s, potentially setting a global example for fighting climate crisis. G7 energy and ecological transition ministers have agreed to exit from coal by 2035. On Tuesday, the ministers will issue a final communique detailing the G7 commitments to decarbonize their economies. The ministers were also pondering on potential restrictions to Russian imports of liquefied natural gas to Europe, which the European Commission is due to propose in the short term. The agreement on coal marks a significant step in the direction indicated last year by the COP28 United Nations Climate Summit in December to transition away from coal, oil and gas. In the third Nepal Investment Summit, the government of Nepal made a strong case for investments in the hilly nation for its IT sector and green energy. The second day of the summit concluded with investments worth 9.13 billion rupees for 4 different projects. The Department of Industry inaugurated the system of foreign investment approval. Foreign investors can apply to establish a new company with 100% share ownership or joint venture or investment capital in an already operating company through an automatic route. The automatic route is expected to save the investors time and money in making investments in Nepal. Minister for Communications and Information Technology, Rekha Sharma, said that the government was determined to make Nepal an international hub of IT and appealed to investors to partner in Nepal's digital transformation and prosperity through investment in the IT sector. Let's get to other updates from the world making it to the headlines. 6 months after Hurricane Otis unleashed its fury on Acapulco in the early hours of October 25th, residents are still rebuilding their lives and livelihoods. Despite the efforts, the pace of reconstruction has been slow, leaving many residents displaced and without job opportunities. According to locals, it will take 3 to 4 years to rebuild Acapulco fully. Asylum seekers, that is the migrants, were picked up by the U.S. Border Patrol after crossing the border from Mexico into the United States on Monday to transport them to San Diego for processing. For months now, makeshift camps have seen migrants pass by in the eastern San Diego desert, where they wait to be processed by the border officials. A migrant from Thailand to the U.S., Charlie Seifun, won $1.3 billion from Powerball jackpot in Oregon on Monday. Seifun is battling cancer since 2016. The prize, the 8th largest in the U.S. history, will be split with Charlie's wife, Dwapun, and his friend, Liza. The 6th edition of annual Briggs in Water Light Festival was held in Italy's Bezanon on Sunday. Now, this year's theme focused on melting glaciers to raise awareness on the effects of climate change. It was lit up by 36 light installations. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, as the nation readies for the third phase polling on 7th of May, political leaders sweat it out with all their might to woo the voters. In line with the election coverage at DD India, we get you a special report on the political dynamics in Guwahati. Stay with us for all the action from Madrid Open. We get you the super performance of world number 2 Yannick Sinner and world number 1 Iga Swiatek. Script victorious, stupendous victories.
Hype versus facts. In-depth news and analysis with experts who will help you decide why this election matters. DD India is the main election headquarters with numbers most accurate, data most reliable, and viewership across the platforms. Stay tuned to the Great Indian Election only on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. IST. And
all right, let's get to the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India now. Ahead of the third phase of the Indian general elections, campaigning continues to gain steam on Tuesday. 93 seats are going to polls on May 7th in this phase. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing poll rallies in Maharashtra and Telangana. 11 constituencies in Maharashtra will vote in this phase, while Telangana will go to polls in the fourth phase. Union Home Minister Amit Shah will be addressing a public meeting in West Bengal. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be addressing a public meeting in Madhya Pradesh's Khandwa and Birwani. While opposition Congress leader Rahul Gandhi is scheduled to address a public meeting in MP's Bhind, 8 seats in the state are going to polls in this phase. Next up, DD India's Sakal Bhatt delves into the political dynamics in Guwahati, the capital of the northeastern state of Assam, ahead of the third phase of elections to be held on May 7th. Take a look.
Team Poll Pulse has reached Guwahati. Welcome to the gateway to northeast of India. We are at Kamakhya Temple here in the heart of Guwahati at the top of Nilachal Hills. Kamakhya Temple, one of the most revered and oldest places of worship. Any visit to Assam or perhaps any visit to Guwahati is incomplete without paying visit to this place from where I'm reporting from. Why is it important to vote?
ভোট দিব লাগে কি নাগৰিকৰ কাৰণে নাগৰিকত্ব পাৱাৰ কাৰণে দিব লাগে ৰাইজৰ যাতে ভাল হয় চৰকাৰখন ভাল আহিলে ভাল লাগে
Guwahati is one of the fastest growing and one of the largest cities in the northeastern state of Assam. In fact, one of the important port city or port riverine city on the southernmost banks of mighty Brahmaputra River.
लोग ऐसे वोटर है जो डेवलपमेंट हो जो आपका हम लोग का काम हो जो ऐसे एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन का कुछ काम हो स्किल डेवलपमेंट हो वो सब मुद्दे देख के ही हम लोग वोट करेंगे
अभी जब जो डेवलप दिखा रहा है तो हमको तो उसी को चुनोगे
As far as the youth bulge of Northeast is concerned or youth electorate of Northeast is concerned, they say they play a significant role.
Voting is our right. It's our right to vote and we need to vote for a change.
असम बदल गया है असम बदल रहा है और भी अगर बदले चेंज हो और डेवलप्ड हो तो और अच्छा लगेगा
जो लोग बहुत गांव के अंदर से आते थे आजकल उन लोगों के पास ट्रांसपोर्टेशन की सुविधा है और हेल्थ में जाए तो आप देखिए कि लोग को अच्छा चिकित्सा मिल रही है वहाँ पे
Two issues are, I think, major issues. One is the development issue. Another one is the corruption issue. at one point of time, we have to wait around, say, 40 years for one more bridge on the Brahmaputra. Then again, 15 years for the next one. Now we are getting 3 more bridges within 5 years.
Well, it is once again a very, very intense battle royale between the ruling dispensation of the BJP and the opposition Congress party, of which Assam used to be once upon a time stronghold. This is Sakalbhat reporting from Brahmaputra riverfront in Guwahati in Assam with camera person Rahul Chopra for DD India.
Up next, we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India now. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar will be on a day-long visit to Jaipur today. During his visit, the Vice President will inaugurate Kalash School in Jaipur and also unveil the statue of its founder, Karpur Chandra Kalash. Karpur Chandra Kalash was the founder of Rajasthan Patrika as an evening newspaper and took it to the heights of glory. Amid heat wave-like conditions prevailing across India's eastern state of Jharkhand, classes up to class 8 in all the government and private schools in the state will be suspended starting from today. Now, this decision aims to protect students from the adverse effects of extreme weather conditions. Due to incessant rains in India's Jammu and Kashmir, the Union Territory Administration has declared a holiday for schools in Riyasi today. Universities have also postponed exams due to prevailing situations in the region. Himalayan Pine Company organized an event in Himachal Pradesh's Dharmshala as they take initiative towards manufacturing products from pine needles and reducing plastic usage. As per the founder of the company, Abhinav Talwar, making products from pine leaves will not only reduce the incidence of forest fires, but will also provide a plastic-free environment. And from here, we turn focus to sports now. In tennis, world number 2 Yannick Sinner overcame some hip discomfort and a less than perfect serving performance to advance past Russia's Pavel Kotov 6-2, 7-5 into the 4th round of the Madrid Open. The tournament's top seed in the absence of Novak Djokovic, Sinner will face another Russian, Karen Khachanov, next as he targets a 3rd Masters 1000 title. For his part, Khachanov overcame Sinner's Italian compatriot Flavio Cobolli 7-5, 6-4. Rafael Nadal survived a second set wobble to defeat Pedro Cachin for 6-1, 6-7, 6-3 in the Madrid Open 3rd round. Nadal held his nerve as he was tested by the 91st ranked Argentine, who won his maiden ATP title at the 2023 Swiss Open. Both the players broke early in the 3rd set, which stood at 2 each, but local favourite Nadal then broke twice more to emerge as the winner. Nadal next faces Czech Giri Lehika, who beat Brazilian qualifier Thiago Monteiro for 6-4, 7-6 to reach the 4th round. World number 1, Iga Swiatek made light work of Spain's Sara Sorribes Termo in the 4th round of the Madrid Open, wrapping up an emphatic 6-1, 6-0 victory in just over an hour. The result sees last year's losing finalist continue her bid for a maiden Masters 1000 title on clay, while leaving no Spanish representation left in the women's singles draw. Also defending champion Ariana Sabalenka came back from a set down against world number 15 Danielle Collins, putting an end to the 30-year-old American's 15-match winning streak, while keeping her own hopes alive of becoming the first 3-time winner in Madrid since Petra Kvitova. In an All-American 4th round matchup, Madison Keys upset number 3 seed Coco Gauff to reach a first ever quarterfinal of the tournament. Keys fought back from 2-4 down in the 3rd set to prevail 7-6, 4-6, 6-4 against Gauff. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screens to download now. We shall be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.